Goedenavond, goedenavond. Welkom bij College Tour voor wat ongetwijfeld de lekkerste aflevering van dit seizoen gaat worden. Wie haar televisieprogramma's ziet, die krijgt meteen het water in de mond en last van een knorrende maag. Wereldwijd werden er miljoenen kookboeken van haar verkocht. Ze is de dochter van de oud-minister van Financiën onder Margaret Thatcher. Ze was zelf journaliste, maar uiteindelijk de beroemdste televisiekok ter wereld. En vandaag is ze speciaal vanuit Londen afgereisd naar Amsterdam. En koninklijk onthaal natuurlijk. We hebben haar opgehaald met een boot. En daarmee is ze vervoerd hier naar de oostelijke eilanden. Daar ligt het restaurant De Harbor Club. En hier zijn 300 studenten bij elkaar. En samen met de studenten interview ik Nigella Lawson. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure.
Before I want to ask you any questions, we have many people who want to cook for you. And you selected a recipe that you thought would be a good idea for some of the chefs here. Which recipe is it?
Well, I had the idea of a chocolate olive oil cake, partly because I find everyone likes it. Chocolate is never enormously unpopular. And it's a very personal recipe to me because a friend of mine was diagnosed with Crohn's disease and he said to me very miserably, I'll never ever be able to have chocolate cake again. And I said, you know what? I'll make sure you can. So I did a recipe that pretty well, if you don't have dairy, you can eat it because it has got no dairy. If you don't do wheat or gluten, you can eat it because it hasn't got wheat or gluten. But unlike food that normally tastes like it's good for you, this tastes like it is very, very sinfully bad for you and deeply delicious. But actually, it's good for you.
Okay, we're very curious to see how it tastes. Michelle, Claire and Fleur, where are you? So we have two girls. Is there a male student who wants to volunteer for this recipe as well? Okay. What's your name? Jeroen. Jeroen. Okay, well, off you go to the kitchen, which is
I'm going to say something first, which is, because it's dark and it's like all cakes often, if they're heavy and dense, which is what a chocolate cake should be, fall slightly, always remember that's what powdered sugar is for. So you just put a bit of powdered sugar through a sieve at the end and it will look beautiful. Don't worry, even if it's burnt in parts. The thing about cooking is just to remember it's about giving pleasure to people. It's not about being judged.
Jeroen, Michelle, Claire and Fleur. We'll be back with you in like 45 minutes.
Now that's too harsh, because the cake does have to be a bit cooler.
50?
Well, they can judge. It's delicious hot as well, and it doesn't matter. It's quite nice before it's gone in the oven.
OK, well, let's test it at the end of this show and see which recipe came out best.
OK, as long as I don't know who cooked what.
OK.
Because then I feel I can say freely, I can't look at someone's lovely pleading eyes and then say something mean.
We'll do it blindly, and they're already in the kitchen. OK. First of all, actually, normally, the first question we always ask our guests, what kind of student were you? Because when I was preparing this show, what I read was not very easy to handle in the classroom, Nigella Lawson. Is that correct?
Oh, well, I was a bad student at school, but only because I'm not good at authority. These days, to say I was bad at school would mean like you were dealing drugs in the corridors. But I mean, I would just do things like really old-fashioned school things, like put buckets of flour over doors. So when teachers came in there, I mean, really, it's like talking about the 1940s. I wasn't alive in the 1940s, but it sounds like that. Innocent difficulty. I never really saw the point in anything I didn't like. And because of my age, which is ancient, I went to what we call primary school, during the 60s, when it was very much, you do what you want. If you don't like doing it, don't go to lessons. So then when I sat the exam for secondary school, and you did English and you did maths, and they gave me the maths paper, and I put my hand up, and the teacher came round. I was trying to get into some school somewhere, and I just gave her the paper back, and I said, very politely, I'm awfully sorry, but I don't do this. And then, obviously, I didn't get in.
Your mom had a big influence on you becoming a cook, is that right to say?
Yes, but in an unexpected way. She believed in child labour, so I was, from a very early age, required to cook.
How old were you?
6. I mean, nowadays you'd be taken into care because she'd put me and my sister on a chair with maybe one leg missing by a gas stove, cooking, cutting, doing things. But we learned how to cook. But also what in the end led me to food was that my mother had a very, very complicated relationship with food. Many women do. These days many men do as well. But I knew I didn't, for me, I had to hold on to food because I didn't want to become so ruled by this tyranny of how much do I weigh, what do I, you know, how much am I allowed to eat? And my mother got very absorbed by that, and for me it was very important not to.
So where does it, do you know where it comes from that so many people, women but also men, as you say, have this complicated relation with food and eating?
It seems to me, and maybe this is changing, but women particularly, but all people are so vulnerable to the tyranny of perfection.
Are you?
No. I am happily imperfect. Now, I wish I were better at many things, but I think to strain to be something which nobody can be, perfection doesn't exist. And in some ways, I think it's hard because I'm part of what makes people feel you should aim more because, you know, you go, I'm here now, I've had someone do my hair and my makeup, and any shadows under my eyes, I hope, have been removed. But the reality is, you know, TV creates, if you like, a slightly improved. I saw you off camera. You are even better off camera. I wouldn't begin to say that. No, but the
would you do a show
is,
like this? Could you do it, or would it be even better if there was no makeup involved and we just sit here and talk?
Well, the difficulty is light so bleach you out that actually you do look different. And I also think in order to be brave enough to walk up, stand on something, you need a certain amount of armour. And that is my certain. However, in my real life, I'm too lazy. You know, my laziness is greater than my vanity. If you have to give yourself permission to fail. If you can't take risks, you're never going to succeed in anything. And actually, the fear of failure is so much greater than the pain of real failure.
First, let's have some person who knows your life very well, at least the cooking part of it. A Dutch journalist who is a cooking writer herself. You know her about your life.
Haar jeugd was niet echt vrolijk, denk ik. Haar vader was eerst een journalist en later een minister. En was denk ik veel afwezig. En haar moeder had een nogal explosieve persoonlijkheid. Een relatie met haar moeder was ook heel moeizaam. Haar moeder had bovendien een eetprobleem. En het is natuurlijk heel bijzonder dat zij later zich zo met eten is gaan bezighouden. Want zij zegt ook over zichzelf, vroeger als kind at ik helemaal niet. Haar zus en haar moeder zijn allebei overleden aan kanker, nog voordat ze 40 was. Ik denk wel dat een impact heeft gehad op haar leven, ja. Haar eerste boek, ja, dat is nog steeds mijn lievelingsboek van haar. How to Eat, hoe te eten. En dat heeft ze geschreven in een periode waarin ze jonge kinderen had en haar man, John Diamond, ziek was. Hij had keelkanker, die heeft ze zelf thuis verzorgd. En die kon op een gegeven moment helemaal niet meer eten. En het is een heel raar contrast dat zij zich steeds meer met dat eten ging bezighouden. En allemaal lekkere hapjes ging maken die hij dus absoluut niet meer, waar hij niet meer van kon gaan genieten.
Another 20 years of this.
Another 20 years of this. It's difficult to contemplate.
Ik denk dat zij in haar jeugd misschien wel de warmte heeft gemist van huisgekookt eten en de gezelligheid rondom een tafel. En dat nu juist het soort eten is geworden wat zij graag maakt.
However busy I am, I always find time to eat.
Als ik een gerecht zie, dan denk ik, oké, dit is een Nigella gerecht. Wat heel grappig is dat de laatste 10 jaar is het heel erg in de mode geworden om zelf je groenten te verbouwen. En al die andere chefkoks die op tv zitten, die trekken eigenhandig worteltjes uit de grond. En zij trekt gewoon een zak voorverpakte sla op of een blik bonen. Het is bijzonder als je gewoon je eigen stijl zo kunt doorvoeren. Van haar mag je gewoon genieten van eten. En dat is wat haar bijzonder maakt en wat haar denk ik ook populair maakt.
Janneke Vreugdehil, you know each other.
I do. She fed me some wonderful food and got me drunk.
Oh, yeah? As we have seen here, you had quite some misery in your life with your first husband who died, your mom died of cancer, your sister. Has that got any influence on the way you cook?
Well, it's so difficult to say because I would never have written about food, I think, as a journalist, if my mother and sister hadn't died young. Because all my conversations with them were, what are you cooking tonight? What are you doing? And that was what underpinned my life.
Do you still talk to them while cooking or not?
No, but I cook their food. So, for example, my children, I have a recipe which I call my mother's praised chicken, which is very unfashionable, you know, because it's not created to have its photo taken. It's really chicken in a pot on the stove rather than the oven with carrots and leeks. And we eat it with rice. It's my family, it's the sort of the unit of our family food. But so it's nice for me, it's important for me that my children who never met my sister or my mother can eat their food. So that matters to me. Right. And actually, I probably wouldn't have done what I do if my first husband hadn't encouraged me such a lot. When you live with someone who cannot eat, you really understand in life how much of social life is really structured around food. Now, I don't feel apologetic about that. I'm aware of it. Obviously, at the time I did. But you can't feel apologetic about that because I think, you know, food is how we share things as human beings. It's not just about sustenance. Right. There is some other form of communication going on.
Questions here. Please stand up. A microphone will come to you.
Do you believe that there are people that cannot cook, and how do you solve it, or what do you do about it?
OK, before I answer that question, I have to say that I very, very much dislike this contemporary attitude that cooking makes you a better person. People who feel they're superior because they can cook. It doesn't at all. Anyone can cook for their own sustenance. And I do think, at the moment, there's an awful lot of smugness that goes on about people who cook, as if it makes them better people. And it really, really doesn't. And I think that this, again, is this current myth of perfectionism, which means people can't cook because they can't make mistakes. Well, if your dinner's not great one night, that's not the end of the world. I mean, as long as you don't poison people, and even but I have in my time as anyway. So that can happen too. But the reality is that you can learn from your mistakes, or you do something better the next time. But it's not a moral judgment on you as a person.
Now you're in Amsterdam and been introduced to our more liberal views. Have you introduced? Have you ever want to make hash brownies?
Well, I haven't, actually. It's never occurred to me. I mean, but in the same way is that you could say that is some form of, if you wanted to argue this, you could say that is some form of health food, and health food is not my forte.
OK, thank you.
Have you tried it, hashies or any drugs?
I have to say, I did. When I was younger, I came to Amsterdam, and rather innocently, not understanding, was given something called space cake. And right. I was going to go to the Rijksmuseum, and I had to walk back because the cobbles were coming up and climbing up my legs. So I had to go back to the hotel. And at the time, I just did think, oh, my God, this is something terrible is going to happen to me. My father was in office at the time, and I thought, oh, my God, I'm going to throw myself into the Prinsensgracht. And my father was so... Anyway, luckily,
bad press
it was
for your
okay.
father. Yeah.
Well, I wasn't that thrilled myself. I didn't feel great.
Did it only happen once?
Only happened once.
You were talking about your dad, Nigel Lawson. He was the Chancellor of the Exchequers with and under Margaret Thatcher, who just died. And funnily enough, we saw this book, a diet book. Why did he write it?
I don't know.
No?
I suppose so many people asked him how he lost so much weight, but it was quite interesting because he was writing that as I was writing How to Eat. So I said, I'm doing How to Eat, and you're doing How Not to Eat. That's fine. One of the interesting things of our age is probably the two books that vie with one another to outsell each other, and there's cookery books and diet books.
You would never do the last one, I think. The
No,
diet
but
book.
you know what? This is really odd, because just for some people who are on diets, like looking at pictures of food, and greedy people like me, I rather love looking at diet books and diet magazines. For me, it's my pornography. It's the notion of restraint, which I don't have. So some people have a fantasy of abandonment, just being abandoned, and I have a fantasy of being restrained.
Really?
Not that I want to be, but I do quite like a bit of that nonsense.
Yeah. This is the week that Margaret Thatcher died, and since he was working so long for him, this is your father, Nigel Lawson.
Of course I knew it wouldn't be popular. But anyone who becomes Chancellor in order to be popular has chosen the wrong job.
So your father was a conservative. Did you share his views and beliefs?
Do you know, this sounds really odd, but we never discuss politics at home. And we still don't, really.
So you never talked about Margaret Thatcher, her years in...
No, because while he was doing that, I was, and in fact, I was at university and not living at home. And the only thing I will tell you is actually that this is a kind of funny story, which is that when... I don't know whether he was just being mischievous, but my father, like all of us, has got rather a lot of hair that doesn't stay in control. So I keep hitting my microphone. I think I'd never done this before. Anyway, so when my father was appointed Chancellor, apparently, she said to him, Nigel, there have got to be a lot of cuts around here, and the first is your hair. I don't know whether that's true or not, but anyway, that's the only story I have.
Yeah, here you go.
Have you ever been afraid that you might let your father down by not pursuing an academic career, but rather just doing something that you really love doing?
Absolutely not. I mean, really, all of you here, we all have a duty to our parents in some sense or other, but most of all, we have a duty to lead our own lives. Now, actually, my father's very, I think, very happy with the career I've chosen. I'm the one who had difficulties. Because that we so compartmentalise people that when I wrote How to Be a Domestic Goddess, I really had to say, do you know what? Baking a cake does not lower your IQ. I think women actually manage to carry within us many different aspects of a person and understand those different aspects make up one person. But I certainly think that I would be horrified if I felt my children's concern or guiding principle was either trying to make me proud. That would make me feel that in some sense they felt the love was conditional. You know, in a sense, one's life is a series of fiascos. You know, you do something, it doesn't work out so well, you don't like it, or sometimes people get trapped by success equally. It's very important just to feel that you like doing what you're doing, and that's, if you can do that in life, because very few of us can, you're incredibly fortunate. And therefore, to start worrying about what people think of you, because actually you can only control your own self. You cannot control other people, what they think, and everyone else, what their value system is not necessarily yours.
Let's have a look in the kitchen how the guys are doing over there. And do you mind walking with me to the kitchen?
Why would I? I always like to be in the kitchen.
Okay. Let's see.
Okay, how's it going, guys?
Okay.
Professional kitchens are so hot.
It is. How's it coming along?
You've got quite a small tin. Have you changed the ingredients to suit?
No, we didn't put all the batter in.
Yeah, that's
so,
good thinking.
Yeah, so we only put half in it.
But it's quite easy just to stir up, I mean, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very easy.
So you're going to go in the oven?
Yes.
Very good. What you might need to do is have, after 20 minutes, if it looks like it's getting too dark on top, put a bit of foil on, because these ovens will have much more radiant heat than a domestic oven.
Okay. We'll come back after you're done. There you go.
Okay.
Okay, more questions here. Please stand up behind the microphone. There is somebody.
In most of your TV shows, you sneak out of your bedroom every night to get some food out of the fridge. Do you really do that, or is that just a gimmick for your show?
It's not a gimmick, but obviously it is a show. I do often go downstairs, normally, but not always in a satin nightdress. But see, that was when I was younger and I did TV without makeup, and
right.
what a mistake that was. But I try to stop myself sometimes because I know it's not always good to eat just before you go to bed. But there is something about the siren call of the refrigerator late at night that is hard to ignore.
More questions.
Why is there always a splash of alcohol in your recipes?
Why is there always a splash of alcohol in my recipes? Well, not always a splash of alcohol. There is something about certain alcohols that I think add depth in cooking, and I respond to tastes in much the same way as a musical person responds to sound. And for me, it's about having you need different depths of tone. You can't have everything on the same register or be flat. So for me, really, flavour and balance and alcohol gives something different. It's really about trying to play with the sonorousness, if you like, of the food you're cooking. I'm sure you can do without it, and I often do. But on the other hand, I'm not someone who believes that restraint is always best.
Quite the opposite, right?
Well, no, do you know, I don't believe in indiscriminate greed either. I think this is a very decadent thing to say because you can only be said in the affluent West. But in order to enjoy food, you also need to understand hunger. My agent always has a good expression, because I do get quite panicked when I'm hungry, and he always says, for women, hunger is always a crisis. I don't know if that's true, but for me, hunger and fear are too closely related for me to always be able to distinguish between the two feelings.
Yeah. Okay. Next one.
You say you don't like diets, though you lost quite a bit weight. What's your weight loss secret?
OK, well, there's two things I would say. I haven't actually lost an awful lot of weight, but I have got thinner, which is
Isn't that the same?
No, not in measurement. I'll tell you what I did.
OK.
I had always...
This is a very good secret to
renounced exercise. But then I realised that either I would have to stop eating or I would have to take up exercise. And I took up exercise. But actually, I did lose a teeny bit of weight before because it was sort of like embarrassing. But I had an operation on my feet, and I couldn't go to the fridge. And I know this is awful, but I could say, so you can say to someone, can I have a slice of cake, or can you go and make me a bacon sandwich? But then it's really embarrassing to say, and can I have another one? So I did learn to eat more like normal people.
Do you really seriously care about your weight?
I don't care about my weight in the sense that I have no desire to be skinny, but every person has a range, and when you go above that, you don't feel comfortable. I don't know that I really mind it. I think I don't like being... I feel sometimes insecure being scrutinised so closely.
By cameras during your work, or in general life?
No, just more by general life. No, in cameras that people are... paparazzi cameras, not cameras when I'm filming, because I do... Look, if you like eating, you will at times put on weight. And I'm also... I put on weight under stress. Some people lose weight under stress. When I get very, very stressed, it's as if someone takes a bicycle pump and I just swell up. And then when I'm calmer a bit, so if I work too much, I tend to put on weight. Right. I'm not necessarily eating more. And
maybe this is the most personal question I ever asked somebody, I don't know, but where's the marker? When is for you the time, OK, now I have to lose weight? I don't know that there is that time. I'm trying to be more to feel about it. I don't always know how much I weigh. So what I've tried to do is, I say this when I'm wearing something elastic. I've tried to stop wearing elastic clothes because then you just carry on putting on weight without realising it. But on the other hand, they are comfortable. So I don't know, really. I mean, I also think at a certain age, you don't want to lose too much weight because it makes you older. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. Here you go.
Since the first time I saw you on television, I think I was
15 or something. I immediately fell in love with you.
Thank you.
And I'm wondering, is it your presentation or your cooking that makes you so popular?
Oh, I don't. It's not really natural to have to reflect on oneself. I'll tell you one thing, is that even though it made everyone a bit nervous when I started, I have always absolutely insisted that I will never work from a script. So I just talk. So I am saying what I think. Now, of course, it means sometimes you stumble over a word, or you get a bit ummy and erry, or you forget what you're saying midway and you have to collect your thoughts. But I think it's better always to speak honestly than to prepare a speech and then try and deliver it. So I hope it's that honesty and spontaneity that works, but who knows? And I don't know. I feel there's something slightly uncanny about having to step outside of yourself and look in, which is why I don't watch my programmes, and I don't... If I'm doing a photo shoot, I make someone else be my eyes. I have no desire to see images of myself.
Let's have a look at your career and the cooking shows.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Do I have to? A beautiful, smooth topping.
Ja, wat is de kracht van het product? Nigella los van, ja, luister, ze staat hier in een keuken en ze doet en ze vertelt het zo lekker smeuig.
What else? Oh, well, my new passion is for golden sultanas. I need those.
En uiteindelijk komt het ook nog over op het bord. Dus je proeft haar.
It's so good.
Je proeft gewoon wat zij eigenlijk bedoelt met dat bordje eten.
Als zij begint te praten over wat ze gaat maken, dan krijg je trek.
Then they can bubble away and I can get on with the sauce.
Het is begonnen als een heerlijke huisvrouw die achter een fornuis staat, maar het is... Ze kookt wat ze voelt en ze kijkt naar buiten en ze kookt voor mensen zoals allemaal.
Ze gebruikt ook lekker volle ingrediënten. Ik noem maar even een hele mooie brownie die ze maakt. Daar gaat boter in en eieren in en room. Het moment dat je samen geniet is dan belangrijker dan dat we met z'n allen heel kritisch naar die vette ingrediënten gaan kijken.
Ze is natuurlijk een flamboyante vrouw. Mooie lippen, goede borsten, goede rondingen. Een man zou eigenlijk helemaal niks anders willen als ze 's avonds thuiskomen en zo'n prachtige vrouw met heerlijk eten aan tafel hebben. Ja.
Ik moet het heel eerlijk bekennen. Als ik haar zie en ze praat met die camera en zo, dan ben ik niet eens aan het kijken naar wat ze kookt.
Now it's just a case of folding the chocolate mixture into the cream. So I'm gonna pour... I could eat it just like this, to be honest.
Haar manier van presenteren, dat is, vind ik, haar grote talent. En ze combineert dat met gewoon heel lekker eten. We kunnen heel veel leren over haar manier van communiceren. Al doe je het maar een klein beetje, flirten, het hoort er allemaal bij.
And then bash. Now the idea is to have a bit of crumbage, but some rocks too.
Thank you very much visiting Holland and please come to the south.
Last one is Hans van Wolde, two Michelin chef in Maastricht. Beluga, his restaurant is called. You were looking at me like, what the hell are they saying, these guys, about me?
No, after a while I thought it was better not to read the subtitles.
Why?
I don't know. I mean, you know, the thing is, actually, I do not flirt. Now, I do have I know I have an intimate delivery, but I'm not trying to be coquettish. I'm not trying to be enticing. So I always feel slightly uncomfortable when I'm spoken about in that way.
And you get this all the time, don't you? I mean, people are talking about you.
But on the other hand, you know, I also realise that television is an editor's medium. Certainly in the sort of television I do. And since I'm not in at the edit, just, you know, anything come up. But look, I am what I am.
You missed the line probably where they said she cooks for normal people like us.
Yeah, well, I do cook for normal people, and that's a nice thing to say. But I feel I don't flirt, and I also feel that there's something odd about the notion of that my physical shape is somehow a strategy, because actually that maybe it's because society feels, on the whole, women should not look like women. So it's seen as somehow a rather outrageous statement not to try and look etiolated and emaciated. I don't know what it is. But I feel that somehow that one always has to be giving a defence of flesh.
Right.
And that seems to me to be not a good starting point.
When they say she's flirting?
Either she's flirting, or that in some way an appetite in a woman is seen always in terms of it is an invitation to men. And I feel like, I'm sorry, I'm enjoying my brownie. I'm not trying to flirt with you. But, you know, that's the thing. But so I find that in itself quite interesting. But I like people, and I do probably have a slightly, I think my friends would say I have a slightly intense and intimate manner. But I don't, it's not flirting in the sense that I'm not trying to, you know, spray scent around me and whisk scarves and, you know, to carry people with me. It's because I very much like to convey my own enthusiasms.
Where's the microphone? Over here.
Certain products are known as aphrodisiacs, such as chocolate or oysters. Do you believe in that? Yeah. And what would you do to seduce the love of your life? What would you cook?
If I felt in order to seduce the love of my life, if I felt I had to cook to do it, I would give up. Well, I'll tell you in this way. I had an Australian boyfriend for a while, and so I felt I ought to learn how to cook a pavlova. Now, interestingly, the pavlova has since gone on to become one of my signature dishes. The Australian boyfriend long since in the past. So you could say that food lasts longer than men.
Yes. What a wisdom. Here you go.
Yes. In your television shows, have you ever prepared a dish that looked better than that it tasted or could have tasted?
Sometimes when you film in a show, it's quite difficult because you turn the heat off and on and lights are on it, and there is, you know, I do feel sometimes that God knows what's going to come out of this. But even though I am doing it for TV, I always, so for example, if the director says cut, I carry on seasoning. I add salt and I taste. I cannot ever make cooking make-believe, so I am always cooking for real. But the reality is, when you cook, things don't turn out the same way every time. That, for me, is the wonderful thing about being a home cook. What I'd hate about being a restaurant cook is that everything has to be consistent.
Okay, thank you.
So we would not do you a pleasure with, for example, eating at a restaurant of Alain Ducasse, the French.
No, I love eating.
Chef, yeah?
I love eating their food. I mean, I think I love restaurant. You know, as I say, a lot of my best friends are chefs, but I don't. I would have no desire to be one, because what I like is cooking freely. The idea of knowing exactly what I'm going to cook and how many grams of whatever I'm going to put in it every single day, to me, is not creative.
Boring?
Yeah, boring.
Yeah. One of the famous chefs here in the Netherlands is Ron Blauw. He has a 2 Michelin star restaurant in Amsterdam, and he decided last week, okay, I'm done with this. I want to go out of the rat race of Michelin, and I'm going back to the basics. This is his little story.
Je moet je voorstellen dat de Michelin-sterrenwereld een beetje zo in elkaar zit dat we toch wel veel naar elkaar kijken. Dus eigenlijk denken we dat de top, de 3 sterrenzaken, dat die een beetje het bepalen voor de 2 en voor de 1 sterrenzaak. Ik heb daar zelf ook aan meegedaan, daar ben ik heel open en eerlijk in. Ik heb ook dingen gedaan dat ik later dacht, of nu denk van, had ik niet moeten doen. Maar ja, het wordt steeds gekker. Komt iemand met een kar met 6 soorten brood, dan denkt de ander, oh, dat moeten we ook allemaal doen. Ik wil ermee stoppen omdat ik steeds meer het gevoel had dat het te ver van me afging en dat het niet meer dicht genoeg bij me stond. En heb ik de beslissing genomen om echt mijn hart te volgen en helemaal back to basic te gaan. En eigenlijk weer helemaal opnieuw te beginnen. Ja, Nigella, wat ik van haar zie op televisie en in de boeken, is het allemaal heel erg ook basic en puur, maar wel altijd met een twist. Ik vind wel dat een gerecht moet altijd iets in zitten, of een smaakje, een kruid, dat je denkt van, wat is het? Dat je er even over gaat nadenken, dat je even door je hoofd laat gaan van, en over het met elkaar discussieert van, hey, proef je dat? Laat met je vinger en of iemand anders een hapje geven. Ja, dat is een beetje ook haar stijl, gewoon lekker los en samen.
When these come out of the oven, I shall drizzle with balsamic vinegar and salt, and then when they're at room temperature, toss them with a ludicrous amount of fresh basil.
Wat je van Nigella kunt leren is de eenvoud. Het basisproduct, dat is ook echt wat je proeft. En daar gaat het gerecht om. En dat is gewoon waar het om gaat.
Off to the oven. But I think that's quite brave of him to do that, and I can see that it would become a sort of prison to be, you know, his own success and his own genius, because sometimes it becomes about the concept, and I can see that that would be difficult. It's a hard thing because, as far as I can see, chefs are very much like actors. It's you know, there's a strange nocturnal life where they are driven to do what they do, and yet at the same time sometimes feel fearful of it and imprisoned by it. But maybe that's the nature of creativity.
You said you're not a professional chef, but was it difficult to get into this world of cookbooks and TV shows when you're not a professional?
Well, when I write a recipe, for example, I might say, look, don't panic, everything goes a bit runny, but it will get thickened later, or it'll look curdled now, but it'll work out. Now, if I knew more, I wouldn't panic in the first place. So I feel that I identify with my readers, or my readers identify with me, because I write as someone who doesn't take everything for granted. And I think it's very important that cooking is not dominated by professionals, because actually, you know, really, if you needed a qualification to cook, the human race would have fallen out of the evolutionary loop a long time ago.
Over there.
Hi, if time travel was possible and you would come across your 20-year-old self, what would you tell her, and especially knowing that you've had a rough period in your life?
I wouldn't warn myself of any of that, that's for sure. Yeah. I think if to meet my younger self, I think I would say life does get better. I think being young is much harder than people ever think it is. Because older people romanticise youth, they always think that somehow young people have an advantage, whereas actually being young is very difficult. One is self-conscious, that everything feels that it's so charged, and you don't, perhaps you're looking for a path without realising that in reality life is more like a network of branches from a tree, and that you can go through on any of the branches and there isn't really a right one, and some of them break, but that doesn't really matter. And so that if you're looking for the one right true way, everything's always going to feel slightly wrong. And I think that's the thing. I think if you can begin to lose that third eye that's looking at yourself, so that's a certain self-consciousness. But I don't know if you can do it when you're young. I think it's asking too much. So I think that as much as possible, one should learn to sort of ride the fear rather than curtail it.
Thank you.
Is there any chance of you ever doing a domestic goddess too?
Well, you know, the thing is...
The publisher asked, probably.
The thing is, the thing is that this sounds like a terribly arrogant thing to say, but when I wrote that book, I mean, they were horrified anyway I was writing a baking book, because baking was just for, you know, people's great-grandmothers, and no one did baking anymore. Now, since this book, baking is huge. So, unfortunately, although I always thought I would do another one, now it would look like I would be copying other people, even if they were in fact copying me. So I'm afraid I would feel compromised. But you never know. I often thought I should do The Return of the Domestic Goddess. This time it's personal. But I don't know.
What would be the difference between the first and the second one?
Does there have to be a difference? You know, people always say to me when I do a book, in what way is this book different? I say, you know what? Same voice, same palette, same kitchen. So really, I'm not reinventing the wheel. I just try and make the food I love accessible to other people. And I don't feel, you know, if people are willing to publish my books, I'm very, very happy about that. But if they're not, I'm very happy staying in my kitchen and cooking, you know, without them being published.
Well, you make a lot of people happy, I think.
Thank you.
Hi, Nigella. I was just wondering if you have any dreams for the future that you would still like to do. I know you like the writing and being so close to your readers, but do you have any big dream, opening a restaurant? Or...
Oh, never a restaurant. Of that you can be sure. I don't really. I'm quite looking forward to. I like the idea. I've always liked the idea of being like a great old matriarch with a table full of many generations sitting down it. So I'm looking forward to that. I don't really. I'm not a planner, and I know it always sounds odd, but the minute I have to plan, I feel jumpy, and I tend to do whatever seems to emerge. And sometimes that's to do with necessity. When I was younger, it was just like I had to, one of the reasons I started writing about food was that because of the position I was in with an ill husband and a baby and a toddler, it was easier, I couldn't be the same sort of journalist, and it was easier for me to do a lot of work that was centred at home. So if you like, constraints form part of your decision-making, but I don't have a structure beyond that. So I really don't know what I will do at all. I maybe because so many of my family have died young, I would be too anxious contemplating the future, taking for granted that it exists.
But the image is a long table, you and your husband, your kids, maybe grandchildren, big
and
family
great-grandchildren.
dinner?
I left children a bit late. I don't know if I'll ever get to great-grandchildren, but as long as my children don't leave it as late as I did.
Yes. So, well, maybe we have a little secret for you. Do you know the place on Earth where people live longest?
I'm trying to think. I did. Is it some small village near Crete or somewhere in Italy, isn't it? Where they...
Greece, yes.
Yes.
You're close by. It's a Greek island, and researchers found out that people are getting very old there because of their diet. The island is called Icaria.
Yes, I have read about this.
Yes, the headline was great because the headline was something in the New York Times like "The island where people forget to die."
Yeah.
and we found a BBC report about them. Let's have a look.
Went to US and make my family there. I work there. I love the country, but then after so many years, I have a problem to breathe, and they tell me I have cancer in the lungs. So I said to my wife, we'll come back to Icaria. So we start drinking wine and wait for the day. But after a few months, I feel strong. 45 years from then, and I'm still drinking wine and working. I'm not a doctor, but I think the wine helped me. I've done nothing else except eat pure food, pure wine, pure herbs.
He's right. Try and eat pure foods as near as possible. The only thing I would say is I do love bacon, and that is cured. But still, nevertheless, they've been curing pigs in Italy, and no doubt in Greece, for many millennia. So my feeling is, it works.
Yes, you would bring your pigs to Icaria, to the island, if you would move there.
Yes, actually, I'm a bit sun-phobic, so I'm better off not being in the south.
The Burkini, yeah, we saw this picture of you taking a swim somewhere. I don't know if we have it.
I hope you haven't.
Sorry.
Can I tell you that the reason why people think I've lost a lot of weight is because of this picture, that I could show you, if I had my phone on me, I didn't actually look... I mean, that was after the water. And I was, it made me look like a hippopotamus. That was slightly traumatic. I found that slightly traumatic. I was on holiday with my children. But I am completely sun-phobic, so I always cover myself. I wear factor 50 even in this weather. I'm really.
I'm not sure if this is a harsh question, but I want to fast forward to your last supper, and you'll ask me, what would you eat, where would you eat it, and who should cook it for you?
Oh, I'd be very happy to cook my own.
So, what would you eat?
Well, I don't think this programme is long enough for me to list everything I'd eat. I have a recipe I do called rockamole, which is like guacamole but with blue cheese in it, which I heartily recommend. And I might start with that. And there's a drink with Prosecco. In fact, it's a River Cafe recipe. For 1 bottle of... In fact, you don't really use Prosecco for this. You use kind of sweet fizzy wine. The one that people are normally too snobbish to buy. Sweet fizzy wine. For each bottle of wine, you have the juice of 5 limes. Exquisite. So I'd start there. And then I would have probably spaghetti or linguine with clams, but no tomatoes in the sauce. Just chilli, garlic, parsley, white wine, bit of olive oil. And then... It's hard. I mean, I'd find it very hard. Roast chicken and mashed potatoes, very important. Steak and chips, also delicious.
It sounds like you would beat death by cooking forever.
Yeah, that's a fantastic notion.
Yeah, you got your recipe. Shall we bring them in? The students with your chocolate cake should be done already.
It'll certainly be ready to eat.
OK. Before we're going to taste it, we always conclude this show with what is your best advice to the students here, people at home watching this show?
I think my best advice, and sounds like a negative thing to say, but it's something I feel very strongly about, which is, it doesn't really matter what you decide to do or what you decide not to do, but don't deceive yourself and never get into the habit of disappointing yourself, because that is very destructive. So I think be as honest with yourselves as possible, and don't be too frightened of fear.
Nigella Lawson. I hope your cake is coming in. We'll wait for that, and we'll wait for the cake. And before we let you go, volgende week in College Tour gaan we even terug naar een uitzending die we eerder hebben opgenomen. Op vele verzoek een uitzending met Wim Anker, de advocaat. En dan in mei gaan we nog 1 keer op televisie komen met een heel mooi interview. Nou, ik hoop met de schrijver Adrie van der Heijden.
De Libris Literatuurprijs 2012 gaat naar Tonio van AFTH van der Heijden.
En jij daar, Tonio, ik had liever geen requiem voor je gemaakt. Maar het moest nou eenmaal.
Adrie van der Heijden. Dus in mei in College Tour aanmelden kan nog via collegetour.ntr.nl. En dan hier, here we are. Michelle, please put it on the table.
Beautiful. There you go. Thank you.
Fleur en Jeroen.
Right. Don't worry. I'm a home cook. I'm used to dropping things on the floor and eating from them. Goodness me, that's very, very adventurous.
They look a bit different. This one is darker than the other two. So this one is Jeroen's, I think.
Okay, I'm going... Let's try this.
No, we went for the blind tasting here.
Yeah. I don't think I'm ill. You can taste from that. That's delicious. This is very artistic.
Very nice, this one.
How has this one managed to get chilled down more? This one also good. Different, but good. Very good. Has it been turned upside down? Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that there is no sugar, is that a problem?
No. That's really just if you want it to look prettier, which it doesn't need to. Let me just try this one. This one's been in the oven slightly too long, or there's something missing in that one. Whose is that one? It's just slightly denser.
Yeah, I thought I made a high-density cake for you.
But it wouldn't matter at all. All you need to do is put a chocolate sauce over that and it would be perfect. Yeah. The thing in cooking is that, apart from... The only thing... Over-salting can never be rectified. Everything else doesn't matter. Just put a bit of chocolate sauce or ice cream on that and you're fine.
Right, I will do next time. But there's more left, so...
Great.
Should we judge one? You like them all, or which one is the best?
I like that dark beauty the best.
Yay. That was mine. That was mine.
I like them all.
Yeah.
I mean, and actually, this is one of the things that's interesting about... In a restaurant, you get told off for the fact that they're all different. But what I like about home cooking is that we all do cook slightly differently. And I've said, I like that one because it most resembles mine. It's pure vanity. But in fact, they are all good in their own ways, and I would, be very happy to eat any of them, and I like that. And if all of you cooked them, they'd all be a bit different. I mean, you have to know that it's going to turn out you know, more or less the same, but we bring a little something of our own, and that's what cooking is.
Perfect. Michelle, congratulations.
Thank you.
And again, thank you for all your questions. Thank you for watching, and especially thank you, Nigella Lawson.
Well, thank you.
NTR, speciaal voor iedereen.